However, I wanted to finish this. I knew there was going to be more on him tonight. However, what happens at the Event Horizon Pensrow? Obviously, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. The math doesn't directly go through this, but you think about this like it's trig for a minute here. And how compressions and density distances of magnetic shielding or magnetic gases around the atmosphere, and obviously the what do you got there? The ley lines, the magnetic lines of Earth there, and how that would be distorted. They wouldn't just be some perfect magnet, would they, around flaming hydrogen over here?
Amazing.
Anyways.
You gotta see this.
Anyway.
Trust me, after 15 walks.
When you don't have this simulation out here about what I'm talking about, I'm going to go grab Ace Combat 7 right now.
Stop waiting.
Ultra Nightmare Doomslayer Lucy build. Obviously, to the Doomslayer Eternal build up into how they set up that camp in polarized wave functions. You have to sell me that, Powell, on what missions for 4-star general taking Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, or not Saudi Arabia, Saddam, the 4-star general there. Out there with a billboard, a map, an area, timelines, projections. Those are our Fed bills. There's the pipeline, what it correlates to, and names of people's countries and camps and stuff. Like I said, good to be specifically sure it's related to law that bases a country or a state, but in that variant, there's still only an M1 and M2. There's dead and close to dead for COVID. Walking pneumonia would be the way it goes before it turns. You know, if you know that, you're probably well in most simulators. Which is back to the questions.
Our thinking was.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I think you said a few minutes ago that the inflation that we got during the pandemic was not the inflation that you anticipated when you crafted the framework, and you described it as a collision of a lot of monetary and fiscal stimulus with these supply side hiccups.
Well, firstly, this has never been done before, is what I'd say. When you're first trying to dial in Fermilab, you're going to scrape on the sighting quite a bit, which is going to close off that experiment before you get good enough to shoot it at something and then spray and pray. And I want to be honest with you, it's a technique for Feynman diagrams. Find something that hits like metal out there. How much of the sky do you actually observe at night? Mathematically, banking economics works that way. And through the Pensrow, you know, those maths, if I set up those diagrams parallel like that, that's where this is way light. You're coming up way light, guys. And I don't know if you're holding or you're not doing it, because that's what gets you your play with the Russians. And I mean the little old lady Russians and the Australians and everything else, because that's what they've been holding out on. And why do YouTube views get such a big hit on what those things do for what this whole Nephilim bit kind of correlates to? Obviously it looks like that, but you do the math and it's still cops are good cops, there can be bad cops, and there can be somebody in the thing that still takes money and turns it into anything instead of what's common or sensible, or what would be not just common and sensible, but let's look at their line and deal with how that gets so far out. Because that line would be like, well, if you're good in business, it would be obvious that that would seem to be a dangerous way to deal with it business practice wise, because you wouldn't care about who you put in who buys your product, how long they can stay there before they have to sensibly the math, the understanding that business. And so they said things, well, we'll try subscriptions. Brrr, you know, we got the pipes, a lot of collisions, fluvium and exotic matter, calcium and plutonium. There, I told you the ingredients. You go get it in the simulator, Rick and Morty. You need a Fermilab. You need CERN feeding Eater. You know, that's where that science will eventually get you. And then because those graphematicals are not up here to what do they call it? Kinetics? Not kinetics. Kinetic. Oh, it's something like FMA bumps you in the brain kind of a thing. Jocko was military thing. Urban environment warfare right here. This is, even though we're not fighting, there are manners amongst war. And you would go about describing that. Well, sometimes I look at all the only thing mannerful about that situation is some of y'all need to just be tore into and realize that there are always going to be people in that demographic, and it's because you're not focusing on those that you deserve to have your fucking face ripped off. Goddamn gorilla.